kind of comments today?
No public comment.
No comment. Okay, so Crystal, we're going to turn it over to you so you could just go on. We have 2 policies to review: the student member and presentation of
No public comment.
No comment. Okay, so Crystal, we're going to turn it over to you so you could just go on. We have 2 policies to review: the student member and presentation of
No public comment.
No comment. Okay, so Crystal,
Okay, wait a minute.
over to you so you could just go on. We have 2 policies to
What's
review:
happening?
student member and presentation of
No public comment.
No comment. Okay, so Crystal,
Okay, wait.
so you could just go on. We have 2 policies to
What's
review:
happening?
student member and presentation of No comment. Okay, so Crystal, so you could just go on. We have 2
All right, I just muted everyone. Let's try unmuting one by one. Erica, you first.
I'm here.
Okay, check. Thea, go ahead. Dr. Alvarado.
I'm here.
Great. Trustee Brown, please go ahead and unmute.
Okay.
All right. Trustee Ramirez, go ahead and unmute.
Testing.
Parts are good. Trustee Fellow, why don't you go ahead?
Okay.
All right. Nope. Trustee Ramirez, go ahead and unmute. Wait a second. I'm gonna do this again.
Testing.
Does somebody have the YouTube video playing in the background? That might be what's going on here. Does anybody have YouTube open and they have the video playing in the background? Shireen, possibly you? I'm gonna guess no, because you're muted. Dr. Fella, do you happen to have the YouTube video running in the background of this meeting? Did you click that link as you were logging in? I'm gonna go with visual cues only at the moment, just until we track this down. Sorry for the trouble.
Alex, did we ever figure out whose phone number ends in 216?
I don't know who that is. I wonder if it's Mary Thompson.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
Okay, we're gonna try this again. Trustee Brown, go ahead and unmute.
Okay.
And now Trustee Ramirez, Trustee Fellow, Trustee Waugh, let's try all of you together. Sorry for the hang up, everyone. Okay. We might have fixed it. Let's pretend we're going to proceed, and if we do it, we'll come back to that again. Sorry for the trouble.
Alex, I can't share my screen.
Oh, I'll fix that. All right. When it rains, it pours.
That's the way it goes, yes. Okay, oops, let me try, sorry about that. Let me try that again. Okay, I believe this is our first item today, which is the student member. We talked about this last time briefly, and I'm bringing it back. This has to do mainly with the changes I made were student member compensation on page 2. I went and talked to financial aid about how this might impact a student trustee if we increase the amount from 3,000 to 4,000. And I was assured that this would not be a problem. The response I got from them was that, let's see, they said, since these are earnings, both independent over 24 and dependent under 24 students are required to report prior year income when filling out the FAFSA CADA application. Whether the income is taxable or not, they are required to report the income. For an independent student with a household of 1 themselves, income over 12,000 annually will usually start affecting their score. So if they had a job and earned 10K in addition to the 3K, it will start affecting their financial score. For dependent student, the score weighs heavier on the parents. And if they do not meet the specified needs threshold, he's not diving deeper, it will start looking at the student's income as well. I know, as Manuel said to me, it's all very complicated. But basically what he said, he doesn't believe this would be much of a financial impact on the students' financial aid perspectives. So then I went to the foundation, since they pay this dollar amount, and asked them if they would be willing to go from 3,000 to 4,000, and they said they would. So I noted what the changes would look like on page 2.
So I think this is great for our students. The only thing I noticed was that on item number 2, where you have the amount they'll be getting a month, that did not change. So I think it needs to reflect that.
Yeah, actually, I did adjust it on the new one. It was pointed
Okay.
out to me and I fixed it.
Okay, great.
So I have a question.
Do you like that, David?
So I had a few comments. Because one of the biggest reasons why I did bring this up was not necessarily because I want more pay. It's because of the differences in pay. And to sort of start off with that, I wanted to mention the chancellor's the system-wide vision for success, and how it highlights how students should be involved in all levels of college governance, and specifically the second strategy to achieve the vision for success, and that's to always design and decide with the student in mind, and students should not bear the burden of misaligned policies between education systems. And I firmly believe that to make an effort to include students in all levels of college governance, that's the only way we can truly achieve that. But because of differences in policies like this, whereas pay, or even the discussion where involving equitable pay, it sort of defeats the purpose of trying to include me in our board, because I will always have the perception as if I'm apart from the board, because it's the purpose of the student member is to have a member on the board that represents students. But I think with policies like these, people won't ever get past the student part.
Well, can I speak to that, David? Because the reality is that this is an attempt to bring the student trustee into parity with the board, which you pointed out rightfully, and I think that's the purpose of it. But secondly, there are fiduciary and other responsibilities that trustees have in our district that the student trustee will just never have. You are elected by the students of the college without any sort of connection to where those students live. So the students can live in LA County, they can live in Ventura County. They vote on you as the student trustee based on the fact that they are students here at our college. With the trustees, however, they are elected by the local taxpayers, and they have fiduciary responsibility for the college that you just don't have. And so while I appreciate your desire to be recognized as equivalent to the other trustees on the board, the fact is your voter base and your responsibilities do not allow for that, from a legal perspective, from any perspective. So I concur, you need to be treated the same in every way that's possible. Pay is one of those ways, making sure that students are on shared governance, making sure that students are active. But in terms of having a student trustee with exactly the same voting and authority as a trustee voted in by the taxpayers, it's just not possible under the law. And even changing the law, there's a difference in how you're elected.
I think so. I think the only thing that would separate me from a trustee is the idea of a full vote. But I'm not asking for a full vote. I'm just asking for the same privileges and rights as other trustees. And also, I also wanted to highlight the importance of pay, because just because the history of student trustees at this institution, I haven't seen a lot of diversity in terms of student trustees. And by diversity, I mean like different, like having non-traditional students and students that typically you wouldn't see in leadership positions. So, and I say that because I'm supposed to represent all student perspectives, but I can't necessarily convey certain student issues because those are not my lived experiences. And I would like to see students that face housing insecurity or food insecurity, who did live in their cars, but be able to fulfill their responsibilities on this role, because they wouldn't have to like worry about their job or other things like that.
Well, your job as the student trustee is to bring their voice to the board. And it's, if you believe that the way that the student government and is seeking out student trustees, meaning they may just be going to the student government who's already involved and not going out to other members of the college community, then I highly recommend that you and Mackenzie work together on a broader information campaign to get students to run next year who are more non-traditional. I think the board would welcome any student trustee who was elected by their peers. But I think in the interim, then you as the student trustee, I know that Alex did, Trustee Tuesdays, or, was trying to get that together. Maybe that's something that you could do to try to get the perspective of the students, because you're right, it's very important for you to provide that perspective. But the college, the trustees do not run the student trustee election. It's the student government that does. So I think, and I know you're meeting next week with Alex Bucklehide. So maybe this could be one of the topics, so we could figure out how to enhance that campaign to get as many people who are interested in this role as possible, because we really do want the voice of the students in this role.
I definitely agree. But it goes off to the fact that I was the only person who ran for this position, and that's because I was the only one who could. And that may be for many different reasons. Maybe there were students that wanted to, but they didn't have computers. They didn't have the time. They had jobs to fulfill. And again, I was the only person who ran. But maybe if there were certain things that would help students, I don't know, the part where the student member should not be eligible for health and medical benefits available to members of the governing board, perhaps extending that to the student trustee. I don't know, there could be other ways. I know that I personally don't need health insurance. I have a health insurance, but I'm thinking about students that may need it.
So may I say something? So David, I can understand to a certain extent what you're saying, but this policy here that we're putting in place is the issues that you're raising is not something that we as a board can address. Like Dr. Njojonia said, this is something that you will have to address with your colleagues, your students, the school board. Well, that's not what we call it, but the group, the student advisory groups, and discuss it. But this here, the policy here that we're putting in place is one that the board can approve, but we cannot approve, and we don't go into you guys' territory. That's really the bottom line. So I am happy to see that there will be an increase. I think that is great. But as far as the insurance and all of that, that's a total different story that you will probably need to address and mobilize with the students and maybe even up to the chancellor's office. It's going to have to be something that is done universally across a board. So I don't think this is going to be, this policy is not going to reflect that.
I have some questions. I've had my hand raised.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so so I do think, having heard the state student senate talk about equitable pay, not necessarily equal, I think this does bring it pretty close. It is pretty close to what we elected trustees get. So, but I think it would be helpful to know what that calculation was for the future, because as time goes on, I don't know if there is an increase in recognition of, I don't know, living wage, I guess. How is this calculation made, or how was it derived?
It's a big
As far as
mystery.
somebody who's been on the board longer will have to tell us, because I arrived to this being the amount. I have no idea.
No, so now we're increasing it to 4,000. So how did
No,
we come up with that?
right. So it's being increased so that he gets what what all of you get.
Okay, so it was increased to bring it within parity of
Yes,
what the elected. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is what David was asking. And so if for some reason the elected trustees then got more, then what, we would revisit this policy and increase it, or?
Yes, you should actually revisit this policy every year, this bylaw every year.
Okay, all right. And then to Trustee Ramirez's question, I was not sure about the health and medical benefits. So I myself don't take health and medical from the college, because I did retire from an industry where I do have health and medical. But is there something that prevents us from making that available to the student?
I would need to go back and check, because the way that the compensation is worded, it's not worded as compensation, it's worded as a grant, as a scholarship. If we were to give him out any trustee health or medical benefits, student trustee, I believe that would have to be calculated into their earnings. And that might affect their financial aid packet.
I
Right.
believe that is probably true. Because it becomes a paid benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
So then
it is
it
something I
turns
think-
into employee based.
Right. So I think that's something that we would need to consider. So, so Crystal, I don't know if you knew that the league already reached out to all of the districts. So they do have sort of a chart of what others are offering. I didn't see medical benefit in there, but yeah, it would be, if I can see it would probably affect those who have financial aid. And I don't know if Trustee Ramirez has financial aid. You know, I think that having the same rights as the elected trustees, except to closed session materials, I think, you know, I think it's good that we have it in our policy. I'm not sure that we always, I guess, act in that way, or that's always our process. And I've said this before, I think it kind of depends on who's the superintendent, what the relationship is with the student trustee. But I don't know if there's anything that we could put in the policy that makes it more, so makes the process more clear, so we're not kind of at the whim of personalities in year to year. What do you think?
So I have a take on that. So are you done, Linda?
Yeah, sure.
So basically, the whole, okay, if I'm understanding what our student trustee wants, is to be treated and receive all that an elected trustee is entitled to. And I kind of have a problem with that. And the reason I have a problem with that is because elected trustees have to campaign for 4 years, whereas our student trustee is elected for 1 year. I think it's going to create a lot of changes, and I don't think that's right. I see a student trustee, the opportunity to serve on the board as a, kind of a learning, a learning for their future for bigger things. So I don't really agree with the fact that they would like to receive the exact benefits of what an elected trustee is entitled to. Now, I would be willing to hear how the chancellors and other colleges are addressing that as a whole, but I don't want us to put in our policy things that we are treating our student trustee, which is elected for 1 year, and every year is going to be, no, I don't agree with that, I'm sorry.
But in our own
did-
policy, we do say that the student trustee does have the same benefits or is treated as the same except for closed session. And so the things I'm referring to, so I think the pay equity, the equitable pay, and then what that entails, if it entails medical benefits. I think we have to just have some sort of a rationale that we use. And I have seen the chart that the league pulled out from the districts. And I do have to say that there's quite a disparity among the districts and how the student trustees are treated. So I think that there should be some rhyme or reason across our system, because I think it does speak to fairness and equity for our students, especially those they're carrying heavy loads, and which is required, and they are taking place. They are taking part in a governance, and it is providing the student voice to us, which I think we all agree is important. But I know, like when we had our retreat, I don't think Trustee Ramirez automatically got invited, and so I just want us to be mindful and conscious about, let's lay the parameters down so that we're clear on what we all agree is equitable and fair in participation from the student trustee.
Linda, can I say something? To follow up on Linda, I'd like to see what other college boards or other colleges give their trustees. I've never seen that before, so I'd like to see that. This is the only board I've been on that David, the salary goes lower and lower. It doesn't go higher for some reason, which we'll get into some other time. But I wanted to say, Dr. Arajonas made a good statement. I'm very pleased with what she had to say, dealing with where the college trustees should come from. And I'd like us to make an effort. It's always been a member of the AS board or something, but I'd really like to make an effort to get a common student out there who's interested to serve. So if we could broaden that net, I agree with the president on that. And I think she made a great comment. My 2 cents.
I'm not sure what you meant. Could you?
I'd like to see a non-AS, member of the AS associated student body be able to vie for a position as a student trustee. Since I've been on, it's always been an AS student body trust person moving from one position to another.
I would as well. But I want to also add that there is a student trustee in our system that is treated and given the same privileges as other trustees. The trustee for Calbright College and the Board of Governors member, Colin Fitzgerald, he is regarded as an exact trustee as all of the other ones. He goes into the closed sessions, he gets the full right to vote. And so there's precedent in our system, and there's student trustees.
David, what is that again? What college, David?
Calbright College. It's the new college. That's
It's the online college.
Oh.
It's the online college that has no local tax base.
Yeah, because I brought up many years. I always thought the student trustee should have all of these rights, even their vote should count. But then I was lectured on that, and I learned it's impossible.
Yeah, Calbright is a different situation because it is a subset from the Board of Governors, and that it's a different situation. But as long as our district has trustees that come from 7 areas and they represent the taxpayers, especially when they vote to put bonds and other things onto local ballots, the student trustee who does not have the requirement of being a resident of the greater Pasadena area community college cannot be part of a vote to put something on a bond. And there are greater fiduciary responsibilities as well. A full vote could mean that the student trustee could potentially go into closed session and hear about personnel issues that may be happening with their own faculty or their own staff. And that too would be very difficult. So I understand where you're coming from, David. I get it. And there are legal, very real implications for why that just cannot happen.
So, but as I hear Trustee Ramirez speak, I don't know that and maybe I'm wrong, so David, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't think I was really hearing him ask for everything. But I did think that he was asking for parity in pay. And I do think that you've achieved it. I just think that, I don't know how we derive the calculation other than to say, okay, this is close to what the elected trustees get. So if we raise it to this will be the amount. And I don't know, maybe that's the guideline for us from here on. Just from my own point of view, I think that we do allow our students to engage in as many of the committees as they can. It's not required because, sometimes, we've had student trustees who are STEM majors who have had very, very heavy loads and just couldn't go to all of the meetings, but maybe they'll get someone from AS or someone to sub in for them. But I do think it's an opportunity, and I think those need to be clear guidelines for us in our own policy. And I don't know if we have to write it in our policy, but somehow I think that we do need to have clear guidelines and that we're more, we have to be more definitive in how we practice this policy, because I do think it seems to be kind of based on personalities more than anything.
Well, the student trustees are always welcome to come to committee meetings. The important thing is that they do not impact quorum. And that's why they are able to come and participate, because it doesn't constitute creating a quorum.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, just for us as a board, I don't think that we've always invited the student trustee to retreats. I don't know that we've, I've also said that I thought that they should be part of our interview process when we interview a superintendent, and I got pushback from the board. But I later heard, even from Academic Senate, that ultimately it's only the board that hires, so everyone else is on a search committee anyway, and so there's no reason why the student voice couldn't be there. I just don't know that we put that always into practice, and that's all I'm saying, is we need to be more definitive. And I think and then put that, and then what we define as being those areas that we are welcoming the student voice, that should be clear. We should be transparent about it. Should be clear to not only the students, but to us too.
So what changes to this board bylaw are you recommending then? Because it sounds like, because if there's going to be a recommendation for changes, it needs to be in a board bylaw, if that's what you're saying. If you believe that we are not clear about what it is we expect and or what the board wants from the student trustee, then this is the time to make that suggestion, if you do not believe that this board bylaw is clear.
Yeah, I think that the bylaw itself, I don't have a problem with how the policy is written. And I'm not sure what words that I would change. Maybe I need to give that some more thought. But I know in practice that it is a bit fluid in how we practice it.
Yeah, Linda, I want to just mention that we have had student trustees be involved in the presidential search, because I remember going to interview Dr. Verdian, and we had a student there. As a matter of fact, he was kind of a revolutionary student trustee at the time. And,
Yeah, it was Marshall, right? Yeah, we did, but I know that in the next one, the board said no, they didn't want that. And, I just don't, I think that we just need to be more consistent in our practice. And all I'm saying is our practice is inconsistent.
But
Yeah.
each board gets to make that call. That's the issue, though, is that every 2 years there's an election and there's a new board. And so you can do what you think you want for the next 2 years here. But if there's a change, somebody doesn't run or something, whatever, the board can change, and the board can change whatever policy or board bylaw you all put in place. So I think the goal should be to figure out what is it that you want right now, with the understanding that a future board could make a change. But if this board bylaw does not reflect what you believe should happen now, then that's what you would want to make a change.
Problem is, it's not the policy. The policy has been the policy for whatever time. It's that how we practice it is not consistent. And that's what I'm saying. And so if that means that we have to maybe we have to have an AP to this. I don't know. I think when we're inconsistent, it looks like we're either, I think it looks like it's based on something other than a policy, and it looks like we are not transparent.
So also one of the main reasons why this was a concern to me is simply because of how I feel my voice is heard. And that just comes in small details like whether I'm called in roll call. And I've counted multiple instances where I wasn't called in roll call. And that shows. And I just want to encourage a culture where the students are involved in all levels of college governance and they're counted and their voices are heard and really heard.
Could you
And
give me a specific?
I have heard that comment back also, that sometimes they're missed. But
Okay.
actually, sometimes some of the elected trustees are missed too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think those are errors, but I also do think, to Trustee Ramirez's comment, I think holding him out as a student trustee when we call him, I mean, he is a trustee, so we should just call him Trustee Ramirez. We don't say Trustee Area 5, whatever. We just say you're the trustee. So I think those are sensitivities that we should be aware of.
So may I just say that it appears that seems like this policy is not ready to go forward. Maybe we need to discuss it with our full board, because I would repeat what I said earlier. I am not really in favor of giving the student trustee the same privilege that we as a board member, elected officials, have. Now, the things that Linda has mentioned, the inconsistencies, I could see, and I have witnessed some of that, but also I don't want to mislead, really. I don't want to mislead the trustee, the student trustee, in believing that the students are entitled to the same benefits and the same privilege, if there's any, when as an elected official. An elected official can be sued. I don't think our students are going to be sued. So, there's a lot of things that we need to clarify, and maybe we need to take this to the full board so we'll be able to move on to the other things and move on with the agenda. Is that okay?
I'm thinking maybe before taking it to the full board, I like Linda's idea about seeing what other colleges do.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can review that, Linda.
Yes.
Before we go to the full board.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need to see what's going on throughout the whole area.
Yeah, and we can also, if there still is indecision about it, I think that we could use this as a first reading to the full, when we're ready to go to the full board. It doesn't mean that once it goes to the board, it has to be approved. So it could be that we're seeking more input. So I think that's another way to do it. So yeah, I appreciate you guys listening to that and hearing it. I think, I have been pretty open, Trustee Ramirez, in my comments to the State Student Senate, that I don't support full privileges, because I do think that there are liability issues and fiscal and financial issues that the students don't have to, that they're not under that same blanket that the elected trustees are. But I certainly have heard the request for recognition for the importance of the student voice, for being respected, and for at least equitable pay, because I have seen that chart and it is pretty disparate among the districts.
So can we decide what we're going to do? Let's table this one and move to the next agenda item.
Brown, may I make a suggestion?
Sure.
To achieve fiscal parity, we would need to move the student trustee up to 4,800, because then that would be the equivalent of the other trustees. I understand that you want to wait, but if you wait, the student trustee doesn't get a raise until you bring this before the board. You can always revisit this bylaw at any point, but if you hold this off again, then David is not getting a raise until this goes through board. Oh, well, absolutely. We're not really discussing the
The $4,000?
Well,
I
I'm
see
saying that
that.
if we were going to achieve parity with the board members, that would have to go up to $4,800 for the year and $400 a month, because that's what regular trustees get.
So I don't have a problem with that, Berlinda, and then we can still bring this policy back to the board for further discussion. That's what you're recommending, Crystal?
I'm recommending that we move forward with at least the pay increase for the student trustee, because then you could approve that at your next board meeting, and you could always say, but you're going to come back and review the entire document at your next meeting, and you can bring it back the following month after that. You can do this as many times as you want. I just don't want to hold off a pay increase for David.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. That seems fair.
fine with me.
So rather than
That part
forwarding
is
the
fine.
policy, all we're doing is we're forwarding a recommendation for an increase in pay to the students, to the student trustee. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm recommending, that you move this forward to the full board at your next meeting to recommend that David, the student trustee salary, go up to the equivalent of yours, which would be $4,800 for the year or $400 a month.
That's fine.
Yeah, I would be okay with that.
Yeah,
Berlinda, Tony?
yeah, fine.
Very quickly, I just wanted to touch on the privilege of casting an advisory vote and how that pertains to personnel items, just because I've read through all of our bylaws and administrative procedures and ed code, and there's nothing that places restrictions on my advisory vote, just because it doesn't count towards carrying a measure or motion. And so I wanted to kind of get an explanation as to why there are restrictions onto it.
So may I say something, David? The meeting is pretty much over, and we have to listen to this other part of this. Since we are advancing the salary increase, we are more than welcome to come back with this again and talk about that, but we do need to go to the other agenda items, if that's okay with you.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Thank you. Okay, the next agenda item is 2610, Crystal.
Yes, let me bring that up for you. Okay, so this was here last time, and I believe there was some discussion with the board about a particular sentence. So I went here and made this change, which actually when we were here the last time, you didn't recommend any changes, but when it went to the board, I guess there was a change recommended. So I went back and adjusted the language to address that recommended change. So what this basically says is that the adoption shall be indicated as a separate action item on the board agenda in the event that the initial proposal is amended by the district, which would be you. That means that we will then take it back out to the public to afford a reasonable opportunity to respond and the proposed amendments at a public meeting. So this is basically saying if you want to amend the initial proposal, you can do that when it's brought to you. We just have to bring it back out to the public to review it again.
And this is what Trustee Martin was worried about. He didn't like the way that it read because it made it look like the policy was telling the board what it couldn't do.
Right.
So this is just saying, if the board chooses to do this, they just have to take it back to the public.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, I'm okay with this.
Fine.
Okay,
That's it.
great.
That's the only change. So you're
Okay.
good to move this one forward?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, now the big one.
the big one. Yes, it's gigantic.
It was.
Hang on a second. Let me pull that up. I'm hoping that you all had a chance to read it. Cover to
Yes.
cover, every single word. Skipping none.
Absolutely.
Do you have any questions? And this is, well, first, I know that you met Dr. Alvarado, but let me just bring her forward again. She is the faculty accreditation coordinator for the college. And I'm going to say that this summer she did so much work on this document, and she's just absolutely wonderful to work with. And I've met her family and her cats, and it's been delightful. And so I appreciate everything she's done. She's my co-chair on the Accreditation Standing Committee. She is a sociology instructor here. She is primarily an online sociology instructor here. So she has been such a big help to her colleagues as well in this transition to remote instruction. So if I said enough good things about you now, Dr. Alvaro?
Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it.
Okay, now back to the document. Any questions for us?
So Belinda, I did want to make some comments.
Go ahead.
So I read through the document, not all the evidence, there was a lot. And I'm just wondering, is there a deadline to accept this? Is that what we're asking for, or is this just informational?
There is a deadline. We have to submit this to ACCJC at the end of December. And so we were hoping to have the board sign off on it before at the November meeting at the latest. Is that correct, Crystal?
I think we were giving them till the December meeting to look at this. We were going to put it on the December agenda. So this is actually a new process for us. We've never actually given it to members of the board this early. Normally you probably got it with your regular packet on a Friday for the following Wednesday meeting. But we understand that we are asking you to look at a document that by the time we get it to you again, is going to be closer to 300 pages. And we just wanted to make sure that at least the board subcommittee got a good look at it before it went to the full board, and that we could answer any questions that you might have or concerns so that we can make those edits before the December meeting.
Oh, so the reason I'm asking is because this is a pretty data-packed report. I think it was great. I think, kudos to you all for doing this. Kudos, Dr. Alvarado. But so I have the questions I have are not anything that concern me about the report. It's really questions about data. And I think this is a really good example, Berlinda, of something that we could bring before the board for a first reading to hear any questions they have, and maybe even a second reading. I mean, just going through the document, I had maybe 15 just questions on data and how do we follow up on it. So nothing that I'm concerned about, but more questions like, why did we not achieve, why was there a drop off in this area? Or how does this data look for this group? So,
although I think those are very valid questions, they don't necessarily impact the document. The document
right, they don't
go forward as is, and we understand that we need to address those things. And I think when you see our QFEs, which will be coming next month, you will see that we are addressing some of the dips in data and some of the issues that we've recognized in the data, which is what our QFEs were supposed to do to us. And I don't want to say, no, we shouldn't address that, but that's not what this document is about. This is our report to the commission of where we are.
Right. So I totally agree with that. And that was my question. That's why I didn't forward you any of these questions, because I think the report looks fine. I do think, though, that it raises maybe some opportunities for the trustees to be able to ask questions about the data, not to hold up the report, but only to generate conversation so that we have a better idea of what the picture looks like.
So I would suggest that the trustees compile those questions, and we could have a separate study session related to those questions. Because it's valid, if you have questions about the data, absolutely, and we need to unpack that data and get down to the bottom of it. That said, we're on a timeline to get a report approved. So the question is the report, do you believe that the report holds water? Do you believe that the report is an accurate reflection of what's happening at the college, especially in Standard 4, because that's where you all hang out? And what can we do if there are any questions, what can we do to answer the questions related to the report that are related to the standards? The data questions, absolutely, we need to do those, but not now.
Yeah. So go ahead, Berlinda.
Yes, absolutely. I noticed what you noticed, Linda. There are questions about data and questions about things where the college programs are not doing as good as we would like to. But as Dr. Indrijana says, we should compile these questions and have a separate meeting or whatever it is you want to call it for this, because they're valid. They're very valid. But the work that staff has done for this report, I think they've done an excellent job. I am just so happy that I was part of it and learned that I'm still part of it just a few minutes ago, that I have to start going back to board meetings. But that's good. That's good. But the college looks very good. Now, there's one thing I have that
Always happens.
problem following the links, the hyperlinks. In particular, let's say like on page 47, I wanted to follow a link and I never am able to get to it. What's the problem?
So let me just say, and Thea can answer this as well. One of the things that we had done this summer, and that was actually before you got the document, it was kind of all in process, is we got some of our classified staff, we gave them sections of the document and we asked them actually to check every single link to make sure that it worked. And also to then we also have evidence grids that are going at the end to check those as well. And so if you found a link that didn't work, just let us know. But we think we caught them all because we've been working on this for like the last month. We've been working with classified staff who have actually gone through and checked every single link for us to see if it's working. Thea, did you want to add to that?
No, Trustee Brown, if you could just let me know what the number is, because each piece of evidence is labeled according to the standard and the micro standard, and then the order that it appears in the narrative. So if you just give me that information, I can follow up and I can make sure that we get you that document.
I mean, that's
So
always the problem with any ICER, is having to go through and make sure all the links work. And it's very, very challenging because of the way the commission has asked us to do this. So we've been trying to pay extra attention to that.
And
yeah,
we do.
so I think you are answering one of the questions. So I was just struggling with how do we get this to the board? And I think that the guidelines that you recommended, that, you know, that they should look at it for any, not questions about data. I mean, so that would be handled through a separate study session, but to look at it for, I guess, what, inconsistencies? Is that what you're asking for, or for not accuracy of data? Well, maybe it is accuracy of data. So I think those are the guidelines that should be given to the trustees. I don't think you have to wait until December to do this. I think that we could look at it and they would maybe appreciate a first reading or a second reading.
I think we could probably get it out to them in November, Thea?
Yes.
Okay.
You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing star.
So I was just saying then that they will have questions. So I just think it needs to be clear that those questions will be handled in a separate study session. But to get this out in November, this is what you expect them to look for.
Sure, I can give them the same guidelines that I provided you.
Yeah, it's fine.
So I had gotten a little cut off, so I had to come back on the phone. So you were asking about which links I was not able to access. Well, I mentioned page 47, page 48, page 49. I was not able to see none of those. So, but originally the other links were fine. So that's been one of my problems.
Okay. Well, we'll try to figure out which links those are. So I'm assuming that was in.
So I don't have any links on any of those pages. Is that?
Yeah, I don't see any links on any of those pages too, but I'm assuming that she's referring to links in the introduction section.
Yeah, so I have no live links on any of those pages. So I don't know if that's, I mean, I didn't know that those were supposed to be linked.
These are not supposed to be links, if this is what you're referring to.
Okay, because they don't appear as live links on my pages either. So Berlinda, you maybe that's the problem.
Yeah, this is just an acronym page.
I mean, it's acronym. Okay, go down one.
Sure. So this is page 48, and again, this is
Keep
just,
going. No, yeah, keep going.
okay, I'm gonna keep going.
Okay, let's stop right here.
Sure.
You see mission link? Let's click that.
Berlinda, I'm having to mute and unmute you because your phone is creating feedback with your computer. So if you could turn the volume off on your phone or your computer, it'll help solve the problem.
Okay.
Got it.
Well,
No.
if it's any consolation, I just clicked on it and it went to the mission, went to the board policy on the mission.
Yes, I saw that.
So,
Okay, so what? Sorry.
There we
sorry,
go. Thank you.
I said that I just clicked on it and it did go to the board policy on the mission.
Okay,
So
so,
this is one that we fixed.
okay, could you go a little lower down? Please?
Sure.
Keep going, honey,
Okay.
because those are fine. Keep going. I got those.
Okay.
I just want to, okay, let's do this, meet the standard, this link down here. This one, and 51. Did it go to you? Because maybe it's my computer. My son told me that was you guys hyperlink.
Okay, you could be right. I'm just not sure which link you want me to click on here because there's several.
Just 51, the lower one. See if you get through.
This one?
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, that one doesn't seem to be working.
There you go. Case in point.
There you go. No, that's good. That's good.
Okay, so I've had quite a few of them that I've not, because when I read, I get excited and I want to see what you guys got to show and I can't see it.
Well, this is exactly what we're trying to get fixed is all these links. So we'll make a note of that. And if you have more, we'll be, we're meeting on Tuesday. So
I learned it, yes. I will be ready for you.
we'll be happy to talk about that there as well.
Okay, great. So that's the only thing I have, but I'm very pleased with the report. I guess because I was part of it, I think you guys did a phenomenal job.
I do too. I think it's a great report. I want to thank Crystal and Thea because I know what goes into these reports and it's a tremendous amount of work. And I think it's graphically very nicely done too. And I'd like to just get this to the board, and perhaps our winter retreat even could be some of the questions that people have in general about what's in this report, which we don't have to answer today. But I think it's great. Thank you.
Yeah, they did a really great, it's been great. I've read each chapter as each standard as they've worked on it. And I have feedback on the revisions to the QFE, which are really great. Crystal and I are doing a virtual visit to Cuesta College the week after next. And so we'll have the opportunity to go through a virtual visit. And it's a great training ground for us since our visit will most likely be virtual in March.
Yeah. Dr. Arajonas, is this all sent virtually or online, or do you have to send a package in the mail?
No, the days of the packages are done.
Good.
We send links, we send it electronically. We don't even send flash drives, nothing. And the nice thing is that then team members can choose what they want to do. Like we used to ship, however many copies. Like for the Cuesta visit, Crystal and I downloaded and printed copies because as the chair and the team assistant, you've got to manage a lot of different things. But we have team members who just do the whole thing electronically, and that works for them. So we're saving a lot of trees.
Good.
But they've done, Dr. Alvarado and Crystal have just done an amazing job.
It's a lot of work.
And our trustee Berlinda as well.
Absolutely, you do not want to forget her.
I do not want to forget her.
No, but you know what? The year, what was it, 2 years ago that we went through this, and it was just so chaotic. It was like no one wanted to work with each other. This team, there was never a problem. They worked so well. It was Very impressive, very, very impressive. Everyone wanted to do what they were doing. And that's why you have a report that looks like this.
Yep. Great leadership. Not mine, theirs. I just want to be clear. Dr. Alvarado and Crystal, my
And
rock
Crystal.
stars.
Yeah.
Very grateful to have Dr. Alvarado as my co-partner in crime now. Very grateful.
I'm just glad to be part of it.
So
So
we
many
will,
people
we
don't
will-
ever say that. So thank you, Dr.
No.
Alvarado.
I don't want to do this anymore, the accreditation.
So we have an updated version that we will put together and get sent out to the board for November. And that will give the board then a month to review it before we actually ask for a vote. Does that sound acceptable?
Perfect.
That's excellent.
I think we will be ready.
Okay, good. So is that all you have to tell us, Crystal? I think so.
I think that's all I have to tell you, yes.
Okay.
So the way it stands right now is I will be moving the two bylaws that we talked about this today forward. I will just make the edits to the student number to bring them up to $4,800, which is equivalent to what a regular board member is. And I will move both of those forward
That's good. Okay.
for your October meeting.
All right. So when should we meet again?
Well, we are going to need to meet probably in October because at that time, I'm going to present to you the two QFEs that you have not seen yet, and you need to review those because those will also go to the board as part of this. I think I also have another couple of bylaws hanging around out there that I need to bring forward as well. And we may have some board policies that I will have moved through shared governance by then.
And let's bring back the student
And we can bring that one as well.
again, so we could maybe by then we may have some additional information from other colleges and even
Super.
the chancellor's office, so we don't give false hope. Okay, so any future agenda items? No? Well, it's been lovely, ladies. and
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
And thanks for coming. Adios.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great rest of your day.
Mhm.